Hello everyone, this is part 4 of What If Naruto Was Abandoned But Found Someone, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Kakashi put his hand in the air and lowered it, shouting, "Begin." Before jumping back out of the way. Neither combatant moved, they just stood there analyzing the situation and forming battle plans in their heads. Well, Sasuke was. Naruto was just standing there with his hands by his side, which infuriated Sasuke to no end. How was the idiot planning to fight him if he hadn't taken a stance yet? Something about this just didn't seem right, and knowing about Naruto's unpredictable nature as he did, he opted to activate the Sharingan. If his opponent was going to let his power hang out, then so would he. Kakashi watched all this with wide eyes. Neither man had moved yet and he was already sweating about the outcome. He didn't really want to see either hurt, but knew in his heart that Naruto couldn't win. It just wasn't possible to beat the Sharingan. That's why Naruto was never able to bring Sasuke home. He simply couldn't stand up to the awesomeness of that eye. Sasuke was the elite, a noble, someone who was gifted from birth. Naruto had no finesse, and even though he was of noble B, you'd never be able to tell it from the way he acted. He had no air of dignity, and even though he worked hard, it just couldn't overcome his deficiencies. It's just too bad. Once Sasuke makes his move, it'll all be over. Poor Naruto. Ino stood on the sidelines practically foaming at the mouth. While she had a link to her mate that allowed them to communicate without fail, her own powers had been amplified to where she could pick up the subconscious thoughts of others if she concentrated on them. Ino had been picking her way through the crowd, seeing what they thought of the match. 99 of the people wanted Sasuke ground into hamburger meat, but there were a few that simply would not back a demon. The council had somehow gotten wind of the match and had come scurrying like the rats they were to see their precious Rokudaime Hokage beat the snot out of the worthless Uzumaki. Then she had picked up on Kakashi's thoughts and had gone into such a silent rage that she began to shake and Gaara had to calm her by putting his hand on her shoulder. Unfortunately, Naruto had felt her rage through the link and had asked her what the problem was. "It's nothing, dear, except that your former teacher has decided you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of beating the traitor. I heard him thinking that your hard work would never amount to anything basically. So yet another person who just gives things to the Uchiha. Not like Hatake ever did anything different when we were growing up. What he said was not only an insult to me but also to our friend Lee and his sensei Guy. I will not stand for this. Please, don't interrupt me in this fight, Ino. I want to show them my true power. Of course, Naruto. Have fun and hurry up. We never got to have another dance." Sasuke stared at Naruto wondering what the hell was going on. He had seen the blonde stiffen in one instance, then relax, and now he was chuckling. What the hell was going on in his head? Was the fox cracking jokes now? Perhaps a trip inside with Tsukuyomi would be appropriate. Suddenly the deep voice of Naruto boomed out over the mountain. "Tsunade. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep my promise to you about this battle. It seems that certain former teachers believe that a genius can overcome hard work and I will not stand for that. Lee, I'm dedicating this to you. The flames of youth shall prevail." He was answered with a loud, "Yosh," from two distinguishable characters in forest green kimonos with orange sashes. Tacky, but suited the wearers to a T. No one could accuse them of being boring, that was for sure. But as their cries of youth rang out, a certain silver-haired Junin was looking wide-eyed at a certain blonde wondering how he had found out what he was thinking. Tsunade was beside herself with worry. She didn't know now what Naruto would do and she couldn't stop him if she wanted to, and she really didn't want to. Hell, the whole village couldn't stop him even at half power. Murmurs flew throughout the crowd, wondering what he was talking about holding back for. You don't hold back in a fight against a Sharingan wielder. Tired of the constant insults to her mate, Ino shouted above the din. "Shut up. It's starting. Indeed it was. Sasuke had taken back his standard stance and was prepared to lunge forward when Naruto made his first move and took a stance no one recognized. He spread his legs till his feet were away from his body and his knees bent, his body hunched forward. His arms hung limp in front of him, the hands half clenched, the claws razor sharp and ready to s. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at this absurd stance but shook it off and waited for him to make a move. Even with his Sharingan activated, he never saw Naruto lunge forward and see his shirt to ribbons though before appearing back in the posture he had been in beforehand. No one saw him move. There was a blur of yellow, an afterimage where he stood and just a second later, he was back where he started, with the Uchiha's shirt fluttering to the ground in shreds. Jaws at the scene and were immediately followed by smirks when everyone realized that had he wanted to, Naruto could have see Sasuke to pieces before he could react. Ino was trying to suppress her giggle at the body of the Uchiha. Unlike her husband, whose body was very muscular and tan, the body of Sasuke was that of someone who never had to work for what he had. His body was pale and his muscles undefined, though there was hardly any fat on his body. Tsunade sneered and thought he looked like Orochimaru, while Jiraiya was thinking along the same lines, just not in so kind a manner. Sasuke, however, was livid. The idiot had shown him up once again, in front of a crowd no less. How did you move at a speed that not even the Sharingan could see? It's not possible. Stop relying on that fox and face me like a man. Oh really? Do you have any right to demand how I fight Hokage-sama? I don't seem to remember you having any morals when we fought at the Valley of the End about using unnatural power. Or is it just the fact that your inner Orochimaru might come out if you lose control? By the way, how is it to have your mind raped every night? Or does he just molest your inner child? Naruto was trying to goad the Uchiha into making a fatal mistake, that mistake being pulling out his Chidori. Feeling he was winning the mental war, Naruto kicked it up a notch with a sneer that would have put Orochimaru himself to shame. Not so fun is it, Uchiha? Having a voice in your head telling you all the time what to do, to let it out, trying to take you over. I've lived with that my whole life and you've only dealt with it a few years. How you coping? Have you begun to break down yet? Feeling the pressure of locking away another soul yet? Does the council know about your predicament? That you hold Konoha's greatest missing nin in your body? Or do they know and just don't care that a traitor and his master can waltz in and take over as Hokage? I'd like some answers soon, Sasuke-kun. That was it. Sasuke snapped and lunged at Naruto, throwing Kaiten jutsus everywhere, scorching the ground and causing general mayhem. Several times Gaara had to create a sand shield only for it to shatter like glass from the heat being generated. What surprised people the most though, was that Naruto was bouncing around the battlefield like a little kid on sugar, laughing gleefully the whole time. He had flustered the normally unflappable Uchiha and was enjoying himself immensely. Nothing could bring him down from this high, this elation at messing with Sasuke's head. Well, nothing except a maniacal laugh and some extremely cold words. Uzumaki, if you don't fight me, when I become Hokage I will carry through with my words. I'll take your son from you and send him on dangerous missions. I'll make sure his life is as miserable as yours was. You miserable fight me. Prove that you're worthy of my scorn or your child's life is forfeit. Kukukukuku. Naruto stopped cold in his tracks and caught the fists of the Uchiha and held him firm. His eyes had gone back to blue, the illusion of ferocity gone. Now they were that piercing, frightening blue that could melt your soul. Naruto stared down at the shorter man and spoke with clarity. What did you say? It was a demand more than a question and it made Sasuke pause for a moment. He see his eyes at the crowd and saw that even among his supporters he had no sympathy. Mess with Naruto, that's fine. But mess with his son and you've opened yourself to a world of pain. Ino was furious and had marched over to Sakura to find out if this is what she thought of Hikaru also. Before she could start a rant however, she found the pink-haired woman in tears, sobbing frantically. She kept muttering the words, evil, and, no, not Hikaru, over and over. It seems her husband was not the saint everyone made him out to be. And he had threatened her son no less. Sakura's eyes hardened and she jumped to her feet, shocking Ino and everyone else with what she shouted. Uchiha Sasuke. If you ever touch my son, husband or not, I will end your existence on this earth. Mark my words, you soulless bastard. Well, that was unexpected. Naruto was musing to himself on the actions of his ex-wife. He may not love her anymore, but one has to admire the conviction of a mother to protect her children, whether she had seen them in recent years or not. He was removed from his daydreaming by the bitter voice of an angry Sasuke. You shut the hell up, woman. I will do as I please, to whom I please. I am an Uchiha and you are mine to do with as I please. Remember who you belong to. K-intent immediately flared up everywhere at the Uchiha's words, all the women ready to K him at a moment's notice. Many were former fangirls who couldn't believe that this was what they wanted to be involved with. The rest were men who didn't like any woman to be spoken to disrespectfully. The most intense ones were from all his friends, who he had fought and bled with. The 6 enormous ones were from Ino, Sakura, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Gaara, and surprisingly Hikaru. Sasuke's eyes widened as the K-intent S into him and he wilted slightly, before hearing a gasp from the crowd. Hearing slightly labored breathing, he turned his face to stare at a completely feral Naruto, his tails and ears now revealed in all the glory. His fangs were enormous and he literally radiated death. His voice now had a demonic timbre to it. You have threatened my child Uchiha Sasuke. That is unforgivable. You have threatened your mate and have spat on the very ideals of decency that everyone holds dear. I can smell the snake on you, you sick, twisted little man. You will feel my wrath as I break every bone in your body. Your uppance has come, Uchiha. Sasuke could only look on in fear as Naruto raised his fist and plunged it into his sea, shattering his sternum and making him scream in pain. All he got in response was a hoarse laugh from the man standing in front of him. Hurts, doesn't it? Not as bad as AC, but it still hurts real bad. Now then, where to strike next? I know. Ino, dear, ask Sakura what bone I should break next, please. I can't decide, there's simply too many choices. Kakashi broke himself out of his stupor long enough to try to reason with what he thought was a QB-controlled Naruto. Naruto, that's enough. You've made your point. You won. It's over. A low growl answered him, followed by another demonic chuckle that, surprisingly enough, did not make the crowd shudder. After hearing their next Hokage threaten to a child, how bad could a demon defending the child's honor and the honor of a woman who hated him be? Most of Naruto's friends were staring in wonder at his transformation, and more than a few females were thinking impure thoughts of how cute he looked and wondering what the tails could do. Ino, hearing these thoughts, turned to the crowd and released her own henge, showing her beautiful ears and tail. Sorry girls, he's all mine. Hands off. Just enjoy the show. It's not every day you get to see a future Hokage have his queen handed to him. Once again, no one was as shocked as they should have been, but being ninja you see a lot of weird things in your life. Fox ears and a tail weren't all that weird compared to a guy who could KU by K himself and a puppeteer that made puppets out of S people. This would just require an answer later on. That chuckle had now turned into deep laughter and all eyes swung back to a hysterical Naruto. I won. It's over. I don't think so, Hatake. This match was over when he threatened my son. This match was over the second he threatened the mother of his children. Konoha, this is your future Hokage. A mentally unstable lunatic. An abuser of women and children. Truly you have fallen far. Now then Sakura, what bone is next? Ask her Ino. Well Sakura, what bone is next? You can't say none because he'll break them all. I know, it's just his way. Pick wisely and hurry. Sakura sat thinking about her choices. She had come to the hard realization that her love for this man the instant he threatened her son. Hurt her all you want but leave the children alone. Her anger grew and grew the more she thought, and it manifested itself as a chakra flare that was felt for miles. She slowly stood from her kneeling position and steeled herself, her chin raised in defiance. A sickening smirk crossed her face. Break the one bone that cannot be repaired and will never be used again, especially by me. After your wedding is over, I wish to speak to Ino and yourself, because my marriage to this shell of what a man should be, is over. I'm taking my children and leaving, so he cannot corrupt them with his Uchiha ideology. They will grow to be kind and humble, instead of self-serving and arrogant. Ruin his manhood, Naruto. If I never ask you for anything again, make sure the Uchiha clan of the past with him. A slow smile crossed the face of Uzumaki Naruto and changed into an ear-splitting grin. Turning that maniacal grin and mischievous eyes to Sasuke, who was whimpering on the ground, that devilish voice came out one last time. It seems the Uchiha clan you knew yesterday, Sasuke. I'll make sure your destructive seed can never soil this land again. You'll be alone till your end days, never loved and never wanted. I'll make sure of that. Now then, how best to remove you from the gene pool? I know, it's perfect. You may want to bite onto something. Naruto knelt down beside Sasuke and began to channel as much Yuki into his hand as he could. While not enough to K, it was enough to irreversibly damage his reproductive organs. B1 repair. His hand hovered just over Sasuke's and red chakra poured from him into the traitor. Sasuke's screams were horrifying. To him it felt as if his innards were being melted and then reformed and then melted again. It was the closest thing to Tsukuyomi you could come to, except the pain was real. Satisfied that his rival was in immense pain, Naruto shuffled so that he could look the Uchiha in the eyes. I wouldn't ever suggest you trying to do anything to my family or my friends, Sasuke, because Hokage or not, I will K you. You are filth, you are S, and you and Hatake deserve each other. The council deserves you. Konoha, however, does not deserve a coward, a thief, and a traitor to sit in its most honored of positions of power. I am a self-appointed watcher of Konoha Uchiha. I will be watching your every move, and if you slip up, I'll end your miserable existence and the lives of everyone who worships you. You no longer hold the power you did, Sasuke. You threw it away years ago to pursue a stupid goal of revenge. You threw it all away, and when you came back it was handed back to you on a silver platter. You don't know suffering, Sasuke, but you will, oh you will. Now someone take this garbage to the hospital and away from my wedding. Kakashi stepped forward and placing Sasuke on his shoulder, shunshined out of sight. Naruto stood upright and turned to find himself L-locked with his wife. Removing his L from hers, he surveyed the crowd and found many waiting for answer. Well, that's a better sight than what I thought it would be. Least no one's running around screaming, demon. Suddenly the small voice of Hinata broke the silence. Naruto-kun, why do you and Ino have fox ears and tails? Numerous agreements were called out and Naruto smiled at his friends and family. He was finally being accepted fully. He wouldn't tell them the whole truth yet, but they deserved to know a half-lie at least. Well, alright. As you all know, I hold the QB inside me. I've absorbed almost all of his power and it has given me fox-like features. Ino has them because she's my wife and mate, and one night, in a fit of passion, I bit her on the shoulder and she ended up transforming as well. It seems I kinda transferred some Yuki into her system and it changed her. But doesn't she look beautiful with a tail? Everyone had to agree that yes, she did look beautiful. Kiba, of course, had to ruin the moment with one of his astute observations. So you just gave her a demonic venereal disease. Gross, man. I thought you loved her. I do love her, you freaking moron. And it's not VD. I bit her on her shoulder and gave her some of the QB's chakra. That's why she has that cool mark. I have the same one where she bit me. See, no biggie. The ones that knew the truth marveled at his ability to lie straight-faced to his friends, but figured it was for the best. Best to let them come to terms with it one change at a time instead of all at once. His lie told, Naruto placed his arm around Ino's waist and intertwined one of his tails with Ino's. They both looked at Sakura and came to a mental decision. Sakura, go get your children and pack up your things. You're moving into one of the guest houses on our estate. And tonight, we'll be having a talk before we leave for Suna. Now go on. Sakura was at a loss as to what to say. Her former best friend and ex-husband had just offered her hospitality when they had no cause to. She bowed and made her way home to gather up her belongings and children and leave that abomination she called a husband. Naruto and Ino turned to the now sated crowd and hollered out in unison. Come on people, the party ain't over. Let's dance. And dance they did, long into the night. By the time they got home, Naruto and Ino were tired as hell, and basically threw Hikaru into his room. The boy turned shot put nearly missed his bed but was plucked out of the air by Genmaki, who growled at Naruto, who just waved his hand and offered a good night. He and Ino had other matters to attend to, like talking to Sakura and her children and getting them settled into one of the guest houses on the grounds. They walked into the living room where Sakura was sitting on the couch with her 2 children. She looked up to where they were and offered a small smile. Thank you both for taking us in, and I'm sorry your wedding was ruined. What are you talking about? That was the best gift Naruto could ever give me. I'm just glad you've finally seen him for what he is. Do they know about your decision? Yes, you couldn't really say Sasuke was much of a father beyond an occasional HN. He never really acknowledged that they were his unless they messed up somehow. Then he'd punish them. Life with Sasuke wasn't all that great, truth be told. I was just too much in love to see it. Well, that's in the past now. Look toward the future and build a new life. Now then, I believe there is a young boy that would like to see you in that room. Take your time and we'll look after these 2. Oh, and watch out for Genmaki. He's not too fond of you. Don't make any threatening moves toward Hikaru. Let him come to you, don't go to him. Now then, little ones, what are your names? The little boy smiled and spoke up. My name is Juugo and my sister's name is Karen. Naruto raised an eyebrow and looked back at Sakura, who grinned sheepishly and shrugged. Wasn't my idea. He named both of them while I was knocked out in the hospital and signed the papers himself. I didn't want any reminders of his team, and told him so, but I was told to shut my mouth and mind my own business. Geez, Sakura, how did you put up with that for 4 years? Sigh. Very unhappily, I can assure you. My only ray of sunshine was these 2. Well, I have a certain pinky blonde to get reacquainted with. If you hear screams, it's because he attacked me. Sakura peeked her head in the door and was met with flashing yellow eyes and a low growl. A shout from Naruto for Genmaki to behave quieted him down, and she entered with caution. Grabbing the chair from Hikaru's desk, she politely asked Genmaki to wake him. The deed done, the small boy sat up and rubbed his eyes, taking in the visage of his guest. Once he realized who it was, his eyes narrowed and his voice turned icy. Hello, Mrs. Uchiha. To what do I owe the honor of your presence? Sakura was taken aback by this. Naruto had really drilled manners into her son's head, but he sounded so cold. Thinking back to how she had just walked out on him, she felt really miserable and his glare wasn't helping. She sighed and looked down, her hair shielding her eyes as the tears began to fall. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Hikaru. I'm sorry for leaving you. I'm sorry for being a bad mother. I'm sorry for not being here while you grew up. I'm sorry for everything. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. I know you must hate me and I accept that, but I want to try to be a mother to you again. I know you heard me at the wedding, Hikaru, what I said about my soon-to-be ex-husband. Hey, I'm a failure at everything. I've deprived 3 children of a parent and I'm a failure at love. I had love when I was with you and your father, and I gave it up for a stupid idea that I loved Sasuke. I'm sorry, Hikaru. She could barely squeak out those words before the tears and sobs tore her apart. She sat in the chair and Hikaru watched as the sobs racked her body. He turned to Genmaki for guidance, at a loss as to what to do. Genmaki sighed and took a whiff of the air. Her tears are genuine, Hikaru. If you took the time to train your senses like I asked you to, you would know this. Despite my misgivings, I believe you should reconcile with your mother. I'll be in the other room while you 2 talk. And as for you, Sakura, don't deceive the boy. I'll know if you hurt him. Sakura nodded dumbly as the fox turned the knob with his tail and walked out, shutting the door behind him. Her eyes widened when she felt a pair of arms around her waist and a weight on her. She turned her gaze downward and was met with a shock of blonde and pink, the owner of which was a sobbing little boy. Mama, I missed you so much, don't leave me alone again, Mama. Sakura smiled and tears of happiness flowed anew. Everything would be all right. In due time, everything would be all right and she'd have happiness again, with a complete family. It seemed they had been in there for hours in that room, crying, relearning everything about each other. Finally crying themselves out, they decided to rejoin the rest of the party. Opening the door to the hall, they walked to the living room and began to giggle at the sight. Sitting on the floor propped up against the couch was Naruto with his head down, Ino with her head in his lap, Genmaki curled up behind him on the couch, and Jugo and Karen curled up beside Ino. What really made Sakura's day was the fact that both Naruto and Ino were in the demon forms and had their tails wrapped around her children like blankets. They looked so warm and comfortable she couldn't help but smile. Unfortunately, before she could feel of Ino's tail, Naruto and Ino both woke at the same time, rousing the children. Karen yawned and looked at Sakura. Look, mommy, her tail is so fluffy and warm. Can I get a tail like that? No dear, I'm sorry you can't have a tail like that. Ino and Naruto are special and they're the only ones in the world who have tails. The two small children's eyes bugged out when they heard Naruto's name and they turned to him in awe. Naruto, so you're the Dobe mommy told us about. A tick mark formed above his eye and he glared at Sakura, who had the good grace to look embarrassed. Sasuke always used to call you Dobe when he talked about you, and he told them one day that only Dobes eat ramen. I convinced them to go to Ichiraku's with me and told them the story of a certain Dobe I used to know and how special he was. I'm sorry if they offended you. No, not at all. Listen, little ones, you shouldn't say things like that about other people. It's mean and not very nice. Understand? They both nodded and then turned their attention to Hikaru, who was still standing by his mother. Karen stood up and wobbled over to where he was and walked around him in a circle. She crooked her finger to get him to bend down, and when he did, she stroked his cheeks, causing him to purr. She giggled at this and proceeded to tug his pink ends, making him yelp. He stood upright again and glared at the now laughing toddler. Hee hee, you're funny. Your whiskers are funny too, and why do you have pink and blonde hair? Sakura bent down and got eye level with all three of her children. Motioning for Jugo to join them, she squatted down behind the two brunettes and pointed at Hikaru. Jugo, Karen, this is Hikaru, your big brother. He's the son of Naruto and me, when I was married to him a long time ago. So he has a tail too. No dear, he doesn't have a tail and he never will. Now why don't you all go play and get to know each other? You're siblings after all. Hikaru was in awe of this and let out a cry of joy. All right, I have a brother and sister. Come on you two, let's go play in my room. Genmaki, come on. Not knowing who Genmaki was, he had snuck into the room while they were all asleep. Jugo and Karen turned to see the small fox walking toward them. Their eyes went wide and Karen immediately glomped him and picked him up. Genmaki was dragged unwillingly back to Hikaru's room, mumbling the whole way about troublesome kids, and I'm not a damn babysitter, while his king and queen laughed at him. Eventually they settled down and Sakura dropped the bombshell. All right, I want to know everything. So you two spill. Naruto and Ino sighed and Ino went to make some tea. It was going to be a long night and they were both getting tired of telling the story. A thoroughly wore out Naruto eased himself into the hot springs and his aching muscles groaned their thanks. Who knew that his wife would be such an insatiable vixen? Some muscles just weren't meant to be used that much at once. I can hear you thinking you know. Naruto s himself on the forehead and groaned out loud. He still couldn't get used to not having any private thoughts. His wife's ability to link their minds was a godsend in some cases and AT exercise on his patience in others. He looked wearily up at her as she slid into the spring beside him and snuggled up against his side. He threw an arm over her shoulder and sighed contentedly. He wouldn't have it any other way. You better damn well not want it any other way. I'm too good to you as it is. You know, I think your brashness has become worse since you became a demon. I ought to wash your mouth out with soap. As your king I can put you in your place, you know. And you know that as your queen you'll never see any action for as long as we live. Oh really? Who do you think could hold out longer? Me, who went for years without intimate contact? Or you who can't seem to get enough of me? Is that a challenge, dear? Because I thought you couldn't get enough of me. Perhaps it's best we drop this before someone gets their feelings hurt. I don't think so, bud. You started the ball rolling and I intend to MPPFFF. Hey Naruto. Why didn't you come out with us for over 3 years? Didn't anyone try to get you to come out? Or did everyone just stay away? No. Shikamaru came by every now and then, but with the way Temari keeps him busy, I'm surprised he ever found the time. Hinata came by and brought supper over every now and then and told me how Kiba wanted to see me again, but he stayed away knowing I needed my space. Neji and Tenten dropped by occasionally. You came by every now and then with Chuji. The one who really wouldn't let up was Lee. That guy just kept pestering me until he finally got me to train with him in the backyard. I still wouldn't go out into public, but Lee kept me company and probably kept me sane. Neither of us ever told anyone of our private spars, but Hikaru got a kick out of Lee. It's probably why he's so bubbly all the time. Lee was a good influence on him. Whereas I brought a grounded influence to his life, Lee was always happy and carefree. I owe him a lot. Lee, huh? He was always such a nice person. I wish he could find someone who would be good to him. If only he weren't so eccentric, he could find a good girl. Lee's not eccentric. Once you get him away from Guy, he's actually really down to earth. I might have imitated Guy too if he took as much interest in me as he did Lee. He taught Lee everything, from manners to improving his self-esteem. Guy might be annoying, but if ever there were two people with hearts of gold, it's Lee and Guy. If only Kakashi had been as good a sensei as Guy. No sense worrying about the past, dear. It won't do you any good. Look to the future. You're absolutely right. I need to think about what I'm going to do. How should I repay Lee? You could give him some weights. No, I want to leave him with something to make him stronger. Not just physically but as a ninja as well. What can I do? What can I do? You could let him sign the Toad contract. You won't be able to use it after you take up the throne. And Lee would be a good signer. Yeah, I could let him sign the Toad contract. You're brilliant, Ino. But Lee can't mold chakra. So how to overcome that? Hey, the necklace I won from Tsunade. It gave Yamato the ability to suppress the Bijuu's chakra, correct? Yeah, so it was made of stone from the demonic realm. What if there was a stone that could help mix spiritual and physical energy to make chakra instead of using your coils? I don't think that's possible, dear. Genmaki already said that necklace was one of a kind, remember? Oh right, I forgot about that. But I want Lee to wield the contract now. It would be perfect, the Toads would love him. Except for the fact that he couldn't exchange sake with Bunter without going crazy. Do you think that the Toads would make an exception for spiritual energy instead? After all, if the snakes can make a demand for S as well as chakra, then there has to be a loophole as to what they can demand in exchange for help. Maybe, it just might work. No time like the present. Let's find out. And with that, Naruto leapt out of the springs and sprinted off into the desert, Ino hot on his heels. She heard his shout of, Kuchio's no jutsu, and a large puff of smoke later, there sat Gamabunta smoking his pipe. Sigh, why am I out in the middle of the desert, brat? What could you possibly want now? Aren't you supposed to be on your honeymoon? And another thing, where the hell are your pants? Do what? Pants? What the hell are you? Oh crap. Deciding he'd already come too far to go back now, Naruto covered himself with his tails and grinned sheepishly back up at Bunter. Well, I was kinda in a rush, anyways, I need to ask you something. Alright, but who's the other blonde? Who? Ino. She's my wife, why? It was then he turned around and saw Ino, as the day she was born, trying to cover herself with her hands and her tail. Sighing, he drew her in behind him and she pressed herself against his back while his tails covered all her vital areas and tickled her skin. She looked back up at Bunter, who was wearing a lecherous grin, and gave him a shy wave. The giant toad chuckled and gazed back at Naruto. The wife, huh? I don't suppose this has anything to do with her. No, not at the moment. As you know, Bunter, I'm the new Kyuubi, so once I ascend the throne I can't hold the contract anymore. I need to ask your permission on something concerning the contract. Oh, got someone in mind, do you? Are they worthy? More than you'll ever know. He's totally worthy and he likes green. I think him and Gamakichi would get along great. There's only one problem. He can't use chakra. Ah, you're looking for a loophole. Chakra is the main thing that draws us here besides the offering of B, you know. There aren't many who have the gumption to call us here without another worthwhile offering. What makes him so special? His spirit. He goes all out to defeat his enemies. He's the fastest person I've ever met. He can't use jutsus, but then again, he doesn't need to. I want him to hold the contract because I owe him big time and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. There's more than one way to make a toad flame bomb, you know. Indeed. I take it he is in Konoha. Have I ever met him before? No, but you've met his trainer. One Mito guy. You're serious. I remember the boy now. He's a miniature guy. True, his heart is in the right place, but sometimes he's just as psychotic as Shukaku. Obsessive compulsive with training, huge eyebrows, can't hold his liquor. He's also a total gentleman, respects those who respect him, and would lay his life on the line for his comrades, including your children. All I ask is that you give him a chance. Please, Bunter, make this my last request. His spiritual energy and be for your contract. I guarantee with as much spirit as the guy has you'll never see the bottom of the barrel. You've piqued my interest, Naruto. Very well, let him sign and call upon his spiritual energy. I'll handle the rest. Now enjoy the rest of your honeymoon. And for Kami's sake, put on some clothes. No one wants to see your sorry excuse for an except your wife, and that's pushing it. Hey, you sorry excuse for a wallet. My Naruto's looks fine, I'll have you know. Ino. Well, it's true. Ha ha. I like her. No doubt'll likely as well. I'll see you two later. And congratulations, Naruto, on everything. Call me to your kingdom when you can. I wish to see you as an equal instead of as a subordinate. You can count on it, Bunter. And thank you for everything. Goodbye, Naruto. And hail the new Kyuubi. With that, Bunter disappeared, leaving Naruto and Ino alone again in the cold desert night. Ino slid in front of Naruto and stood on her tiptoes, giving him a K. She leaned against his seat again and sighed happily before whispering, "All hail the new Kyuubi." While Naruto and Ino were indulging themselves in finding new ways to love one another, Sakura was left with the task of rearranging her life. Juugo and Karen had instantly taken a liking to Hikaru and Genmaki, but she found that Hikaru was still distant, even with his emotional outburst her first night back. He was still a little boy and he missed his mother. He remembered her warmth, he remembered her love, and in that moment he was that poor little 4-year-old again. But Sakura had missed nearly half of his life because of a stupid childhood dream, and he didn't accept her fully. Was he happy that she was back in his life? Of course. She was his mother, but she wasn't his mom. That distinction belonged to Ino until she proved otherwise. And even then, Ino had been more of a mother in a little under a year than Sakura had been in his first 4 years. Hikaru loved having a brother and sister. They missed their father, but only as they were used to having him around. Having a brother whom had known the pain of losing a parent helped, as Hikaru played with them constantly when Tsunade brought him over. Genmaki watched stoically and tried not to get too attached to the little ankle biters, but it was hard when he'd be lying there and Karen would curl up against him and go to sleep. He'd cover the little girl with his tails like a blanket and she'd snuggle up against him more. Hikaru suggested seeing if his daddy would give Juugo and Karen their own foxes, and Genmaki wasn't averse to the thought. These children were now a part of the Uzumaki household and they needed protection. Especially from their father, who would no doubt be out for B against Naruto and Ino, and especially Sakura. Sasuke always got what he wanted, but this time there were too many witnesses to save him from being banned from seeing his children or coming within so many feet of the Uzumakis. Tsunade and Sakura chit-chatted while the children played. Tsunade had missed the girl terribly, but she had done Naruto wrong and her loyalties lay with Naruto first. During their first reunion, Sakura had broken down and cried on Tsunade's shoulder while the older woman held her own eyes brimming with tears. It had taken a lot to forgive Sakura, but she would never forget how weak her student was. She partly blamed herself for not beating it into her how stupid she was for still having a place in her heart for Sasuke. The other part blamed Sakura rightly for not having the constitution to be with her rightful family and leaving on a whim. She glanced across the room to see the children playing happily together. She smiled. Perhaps, in the end, all the pain was worth it, since Naruto had a way of making everything alright. Tsunade-sama, what do you think about Naruto and Ino? Do you really think the demons? Is Naruto really the Kyuubi? Sigh. Yes, he really is the Kyuubi. But he's not the Kyuubi. Naruto is still Naruto whether he's a demon or human. Technically speaking, the Uzumaki's are royalty. Naruto is a king now and Ino is a queen. In truth, Naruto has always been a noble but he was denied his heritage. Perhaps this is Kami's way of making up for that. To be denied your birthright only to be given a kingdom. It sounds like it's right out of a fairy tale. Yes, it does. You know, when I left Naruto, I didn't have a single regret. I didn't have any regrets until Ino confronted me one day and I started to see things in a different light. I realized that there was no love in my life anymore. All I had were my children. I was expected to pump out babies and take care of them until they grew up to wield the Sharingan, and then there's no telling what would have happened to me. I still have nightmares thinking about it. I'm so glad that there are people in the world like Naruto. He may be bitter but he's not cold even if he has a right to be. That's just his charm, dear. He always puts everyone else before himself. That's why he would have made a great Hokage and why he'll make an even greater king. Speaking of Hokage, what about Sasuke? Surely Konoha doesn't want a child K as their leader. You forget the majority of Konoha doesn't know about that incident. And while the majority love Naruto over Sasuke, there is no doubt that he is an excellent ninja. I wish there was more I could do, but after Sarutobi Sensei came back into power, he was too old to do everything himself. He had to have help and thus he gave more power to the council, making the Hokage little more than a general of the troops and taking away his power for important political moves. No doubt with Sasuke, most of that power will be given back because he will demand it. But don't worry too much because Naruto has a contingency plan for the day of Sasuke's inauguration. Really? What is it? Now Sakura, that would spoil the surprise. I don't want you getting ahead of everyone else. Gaara and Matsuri had come to visit the Uzumakis at the spring and decided to stay the night. All were sitting in the spring just enjoying the night air and the warmth of the water. Matsuri was glad to have a night away from Kaoru. The little girl was entirely too energetic. She blamed the influence of Naruto for that and perhaps Temari. The two blondes were entirely too much alike. Gaara had rid himself of his sand armor for the night, his pale skin seeming to glow like luminescent paint. Matsuri had insisted that Naruto and Ino be in the demon forms as she proclaimed they were just too cute. Gaara had rolled his eyes and laughed at the sight of his wife trying to pet Naruto's tails only to be swatted by the appendages. Naruto apologized profusely. The tails seemed to have a mind of their own, like Gaara's sand. Ino had been happy to see Gaara and Matsuri leave. She liked them well enough, but this was supposed to be her alone time with Naruto. She had finally climbed into the springs after an all-day training session with Naruto and let the water wash over her sore muscles. Naruto had called that light training. Light? Who was he kidding? If not for her demonic form, that training would have killed her. How in the hell did a regular human-like leader it? No wonder Naruto wanted the guy to have the contract. He wasn't human, he was superhuman. She groaned when she heard Naruto slip into the water behind her and pull her back to the edge by her waist. She really didn't want to move right now. Why couldn't he leave her alone? You know this link works both ways, right? I heard that. And besides, I believe you'll like what I'm going to do to you. So sit down, shut up, and enjoy. When did you learn to give AM? I didn't think you had skilled hands. Ha, shows what you know. What do you think Erosenin and I did all those years? Train constantly. Nah, he took me around and showed me to some interesting people. One of them was AM, who said I had a lot of promise. She showed me how to give a proper M to loosen the muscles and the morals. Wait just a damn minute. She, Uzumaki Naruto, if I find out you D some nameless hussy just for M lessons I'll. She never got to finish that sentence because Naruto had twisted her head and locked L with her once again. That was a dirty trick and yet it worked so well against her. She'd find one of his weaknesses one of these days and she'd have him right where she wanted him. Not likely, babe. And I thought you had me where you wanted me already. Shut up and keep M. Let's see if you can get my whole body loose. Naruto grinned and K the back of her N making her shiver. You seem pretty loose to me, dear. But we'll see if I can make your legs turn to rubber. The honeymoon was over too quickly for their tastes, and soon they were on their way back to Konoha. They were greeted at the gates by smiles of the Chunin guards. All the shinobi had heard about the shame of their future Hokage and couldn't be happier. Word around the campfire was that Naruto had destroyed the Uchiha's manhood permanently, and none of the best medics were willing to heal him. Of course, being a totaler and alienating one of the Sannin and her 2 apprentices didn't help Sasuke one bit. He pitched a hissy fit and demanded that they help him, but without any power to back him up. His whining was more like the buzz of an annoying mosquito. The guards at the gate gave Naruto a salute and a cheesy thumbs up, which he promptly returned, making Ino groan and quickly drag his home. They walked in the door and were immediately glomped by an overenthusiastic Hikaru, followed by Juugo and Karen and an extremely happy Tsunade. She loved taking care of Hikaru, but sometimes the boy was too much like his father. She had to have Iruka chase him down after he pulled a few pranks and had tied him to a chair in her office while she did her paperwork. It had been worth it in the end when he had asked her why she didn't use clones to do her paperwork like Daddy did. She had blinked in confusion and asked him what he meant. He had told her that his daddy always used clones to do paperwork, that way he could finish earlier to help him with his ninja training. Tsunade had blinked and then began swearing up a storm, frightening the poor little boy, making him think he had done something wrong. She had confused him further by untying him and hugging him fiercely while swinging him around in circles. All this time the answer to her problems was under her nose and she hadn't seen it. Naruto had laughing when he heard this. Poor Tsunade had figured out the way to beat the paperwork monster in the twilight of her Hokage career. When asked why he had never told her the secret, he had smiled smugly and told her that she never asked, earning him a one-way ticket to the Sheetrock Express. Ino had to peel her poor mate off the wall and unceremoniously dumped him in their bedroom until he regained consciousness. The adults all began chatting again while poor little Juugo and Karen watched Tsunade in horror. Hikaru had shrugged nonchalantly and went back to playing. Seeing that he was unperturbed by this, Juugo asked him if this was common. Of course it is. Grandma sends Daddy through the wall at least once a week. It's okay though, Daddy's strong so he isn't hurt. He just wobbles around for a while until he can walk straight again. Grandma says it's fun beating up a Demon King, and besides, they can't really hurt one another. Demon King. Your daddy's a demon. Yup. He's the king of foxes. Karen took the moment to speak up. Really? Are you a fox, Hikaru? I think you'd be a cute fox. Hey. Nope. I'm just a regular human. I can't do anything fox-like like Daddy, but he's shown me a lot of other stuff, like how to fight. I can show you guys if you want. Both the little tykes brightened at this. Yay. Show us a jutsu. A really cool jutsu. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I know. I could show you a Kaiten jutsu. Ino overheard this with her kitsune ears and growled low, making the other women look at her. Uzumaki Hikaru. Not in my house you won't. Yikes. Mom's mad. Outside, quick. A quick scuffle and the 3 kids were outside, safely being watched over by Genmaki, who never ceased to be amazed at his queen's scary attitude. The kids finally out of earshot and Sakura gone home to prepare lunch for her children, Tsunade decided to get details about the honeymoon. Okay girl, spill. How was it? Was it good? Everything you expected. How big? Tsunade-sama. Please, you're like Naruto's mother. I can't tell you those things. Oh please, I'm not really his mother. More like a distant cousin or something. Pretend for a moment anyways and indulge me. Ino smirked. She'd show the old woman a thing or two. Well, I must say he's larger than I ever thought. Oh my god, Tsunade, his tongue is so long, and it stretched for what seemed like miles. His smile is what got me the most though. His pipe is huge. His pipe, huh? You're using an awful lot of innuendos and, you're not talking about Naruto, are you? Of course not, Jiraiya-sama. Now you'd better wake Tsunade up from that sleeping potion you put in her sake before she gets pissed at you. You dirty old man, you actually think I'd fall for that? I'm psychic, you know. Jiraiya just grinned and put away his notepad. Oh well, it was worth a shot. No hard feelings, right? It was Ino's turn to smile now, although with her kitsune features, the smile was much more feral. No hard feelings at all, Jiraiya-sama. In fact, once I tell Tsunade what happened, I don't think you'll be having hard feelings for quite a while. Jiraiya paled at this and began to back away slowly toward the window. Oh come on Ino. It was all in good fun. Besides, I don't write books anymore, so you wouldn't have ended up in anything. What do you say? Look behind you. Jiraiya shut his eyes and whimpered when he heard the sound of knuckles cracking behind him. He tried to make it to the window, but Tsunade's fist was much faster and he went sailing off into the horizon. Ino just sighed and smirked at the heavily breathing Hokage. Shouldn't you two just drop the facade and get together? It's pretty obvious to everyone how you feel about each other, you know. Tsunade just smiled and flipped a pigtail back to its rightful place on her back. Nah, it's much more fun the way we do things. Although I think I get more fun out of it than he does. Now young lady, I want details about your honeymoon. Great, thought Ino, she's just as bad as Jiraiya-sama. Naruto had awoken the next day and went searching for Lee. He found him circling Konoha on his morning run. Pulling in beside him, Naruto began to keep pace and struck up a conversation. So how you doing, Lee? Everything all right? Yosh Naruto. Everything is great. My training is coming along fine and I hope one day to beat you, my most youthful of rivals. It will be a most exciting moment in my ninja career. I hope to see that one day, Lee, but for now I have something to tell you that will make you even more excited. It concerns you and a jutsu. Lee stopped cold in his tracks and Naruto had to put on the brakes to go back to him. Lee just looked at him with wide eyes and an open mouth. Me and a jutsu. What do you mean, Naruto? I can't use jutsus, you know that. Ah, but Lee, I know a jutsu that you can use and it is only allowed to be used by one person at a time. Meet me at the training grounds in 5 minutes and lose the weights, they'll only distract you. Yosh. I shall be there. Which training grounds? Mine. Behind my house. We won't be bothered there. 5 minutes later, a very excitable Lee was seen bouncing around the backyard of Naruto's house, confusing the children watching and causing Ino to pinch the bridge of her nose. She hoped that Naruto was right about this. Lee, stop bouncing around and get over here. I need to tell you something. Hi sensei. Don't call me that, Lee. I'm Naruto, I'm your friend. This jutsu is my gift for staying by me during my tough time. Only you can do it and it doesn't require chakra. Doesn't require chakra. Forgive me Naruto, but I don't see how this jutsu can work without chakra. It's just not possible. Naruto softened at this. Lee was smarter than most people knew. He gave Lee the biggest grin he could and offered a trademarked thumbs up and a guy-like speech. Lee, my friend and rival, how many times have you and I proven the impossible is possible? This jutsu normally takes chakra, that is true, but I have found you a loophole that will allow you to do it. Tell me, Lee, can you feel your spiritual power? My spiritual power. When I meditate I can sense it. But no matter how much I meditate I cannot make it mix with my physical power and make chakra. It is a shame, because I have been told by several people I would be a very powerful shinobi if my chakra coils were not so unusable. Lee, I want you to meditate and reach your spiritual power. Unlock it so that you may use it when you wish. Let it flow through you, and when you have attained it, I will show you the jutsu. Lee nodded and sat down cross-legged on the ground. He concentrated hard on his spiritual power and his eyes scrunched in frustration. Unlocking his power was much like opening the gates, except once his spiritual power was unlocked it would be unlocked forever. Lee had heard many things over the years. Deadlist, dobe, idiot, loser, talentless, incompetent, failure. That last one stung the most. But he had gained friends and they believed in him. He gritted his teeth and thought of Guy Sensei, who never gave up on him. Tenten, though she had been slow to come around, believed in his abilities and trusted him with her life. Neji also trusted him. Then there was Naruto, his admitted rival and friend, who trusted him enough and put enough faith in him to somehow broker a jutsu for him. Not only a jutsu that he alone could use, but one that required no chakra. He would break his barriers and release his power. Naruto was counting on him. That's when he felt the dam beginning to break. Everyone stood by and watched with bated breath. Naruto noticed the first trickles of power leaking from Lee's body and soon the dam burst, a huge wave of spiritual energy washing over the property and sending a sense of fear and yet calm over everyone present. Lee opened his eyes and for the first time in years he felt a sense of empowerment and inner peace. He was ready, he would not let his friend down. Naruto held out a hand and pulled his spandex-wearing friend to his feet. They exchanged grins before Naruto pulled Lee into a bone-crushing hug. That's the only hug you're going to get from me, Lee. You better appreciate it, my friend. Hi Naruto, I do. This means a lot to me. Now then, may I know what the jutsu is? Naruto's grin threatened to split his face open. Lee looked at everyone else and saw similar looks and suddenly he felt elated. This jutsu must be one of a kind. He nearly started bouncing again when Naruto suddenly shouted, Kuchio's no jutsu, and a familiar toad appeared. Gamakichi had a huge scroll in his hands and looked up at Naruto, who was sitting on his head. Is this him, bro? The one you spoke of? Hi. It is. What do you think? With the pressure his spirit puts out, I believe that Pops will be very happy with your choice. I don't mean to interrupt Naruto, but why is Gamakichi here? Naruto ignored Lee and instead pointed at the scroll that was on the ground. Unroll that scroll, Lee, and sign your name in B, then put your right handprint below it. All right, but I don't see where you're going with this. Lee did as he was told and was surprised by the names on the scroll. As he read further left, his eyes grew wider and wider until he came to a most familiar name. He looked up at Naruto with tears in his eyes and a wide smile on his face. Naruto, my friend, is this what I think it is? Hi, Lee, it is. Congratulations, my friend. You are the new Toad Summoner. Now finish signing your name and summon for the first time. Lee was beside himself. He signed his name with a flourish and put his handprint down and watched as the scroll rolled back up with a snap and disappeared. Gamakichi let Naruto off his head and watched with pride as Naruto helped Lee to his feet. Rise, Lee. You are a summoner now and the toads are your allies. I have asked Gamakichi to be your personal summon since I will no longer be able to be their summoner. But why? I'll tell you one day. For now, know that you are my choice as successor. Now bite your thumb, gather your spiritual energy, and follow my hand seals, then jam your B hand into the ground while shouting, Kuchio's no jutsu. Understand? Hi. Lee did as he was asked and jammed his hand into the ground, shouting, Kuchio's no jutsu. He felt the energy spread beneath him and found himself lifting into the air at a rapid pace. His ascension abruptly stopped and he felt a bumpy surface beneath him. He looked down to find himself on top of a giant, pipe-smoking toad. Oi Naruto, is this little bug on my nose my new summoner? I thought he would be bigger than this. His spiritual power is enormous though, more than making up for a lack of chakra. Tell me your name, boy. My name is Rock Lee, sir. It is an honor to meet the esteemed Gamabunta. I am at your service. Lee bowed while saying this and closed his eyes, not noticing the smile on Gamabunta getting wider and wider. I like him. I like him a lot. He's got much better manners than any of my previous summoners and he's better looking too. Hey you stupid toad. Lee does not look better than me. Did someone say something? Oh look, it's my former summoner. I didn't see you beyond the radiance of this handsome young man on my nose. Surely with one such as him signing the Toad contract we will be revered by all. Thank you Gamabunta-sama. I will do my best to live up to your expectations. All right Lee, you can drop the formalities. I am just Bunta to you. You have proven yourself worthy of my people's help and devotion. The Gama family will help the Rock family as long as you all remain loyal to Konoha and your ideals. I look forward to seeing you in the future. Good fortune, young one. Gamabunta disappeared after letting Lee off his nose, leaving a beaming Lee and an equally happy Naruto. Gamakichi turned to Lee and told him to summon him sometime before waving bye to everyone, but not before he spoke to Naruto. Hey bro, invite me to your palace soon, okay? I want to see a real king with my own eyes. I shall most certainly do so, Gamakichi. I'll see you on the other side. Lee didn't catch the gist of that conversation since he was still in shock. He was a summoner. Yosh. This is the best day of my life. Wait until I tell Guy Sensei about this. Freeze Lee. You can't tell Guy Sensei yet. I haven't officially named you yet. Named me. What do you mean? There was 2 parts to your gift. I'll give you the other soon. Just be sure to be at Sasuke's inauguration no matter what, okay? Now go enjoy yourself, Lee. You deserve it. Lee ran forward and enveloped Naruto in another bone-crushing hug. Naruto didn't struggle, he just hugged Lee back, letting the hapless ninja have his moment. Although if he would have activated the damnable sunset genjutsu, Naruto would have K'd him there. Lee ran off into the sunset shouting happily all the way. Naruto felt Ino walk up beside him and worm her way under his arm. You're a good man, Naruto. How you managed to do so much good with so little is beyond me. You've given Lee a gift no one else could. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Ino. You have no idea what those words mean. Unfortunately, that moment was ruined when Naruto's stomach growled. Ino scowled at the offending tummy and Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly. Well, I can't help it. Working with Lee always gives me an appy. Hey gang, who's up for some Ichiraku ramen? There were no objections from anyone. Let the king have his moment. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.